and welcome to another great episode of Teaching Heroes, the teaching podcast, where we get right down into it. We ask teachers and educators, what does it take to show up every day to their job and grow tomorrow's leaders? And today I have an extremely special guest, Mrs. LeeAnn Whitmore, or Miss Lee, who I call because she is the early childhood educator for my children, and that's how I met her, and she's amazing. Welcome, Lee. Thank you for coming onto my podcast.
Thank you.
I so appreciate you coming on. Lee is just amazing, and as I said, I met her because my children go to the daycare where Lee is the family educator, and more than that, what's your role now, Lee? Tell us about you, who you are, what are you doing, what's your role?
My role is I've started at the bottom, worked my way up, became a nominated supervisor and went into a directory role during COVID. So I'd like to educate my staff and the children that I have and be very connected with them in many ways. And that's through my culture, my knowledge and past experience.
And Lee sorry, I didn't mention at the beginning, Lee is Yuin mob as well. He's a First Nations educator, and you bring a lot of that into your teaching, which we'll talk about in this podcast as well, because I think the way you embed it into the educating of the children at the daycare is so authentic. It's just embedded. It's just a part of what you guys do every day, and it is really just an outstanding model for what all schools and education should do about embedding First Nations knowledge and wisdom.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's not an easy job. It's always a learning experience for myself as I'm still learning about my own culture.
Yeah. So tell us let's start with where you are now. And so it's a childcare centre out in Southwest Sydney. Tell everyone, how big is it? And what is the main drive and the main focus for the way you implement the early childhood framework into your childcare centre? Okay,
so we're about a 33 placement. So we're only a small centre. Pedagogy is mainly through learning concepts, where it's usually through pedagogy play. Now, I like to teach and educate my staff more in a practical, not a theory. I find by being practical, it cements a lot better for the educators and for the children. You can say a word, but if you don't have a meaning or a purpose behind that word, no one knows what or understands it. So I do a lot of my curriculum learning through play and through different experience. I'm very passionate about provocations. So provocations like a third teacher, which is lots to do with Reggio as well. And by having that Reggio sort of background and passion about Reggio, it's sort of more implemented into our curriculum of even the way we set out, how we implement things, how we collect and save resources afterwards. So if a child does a project, I like to always keep it for many, many years. So that knowledge is passed down and I can reflect on it with the other children.
Yeah, wow, you're better than me. I don't keep any of my children's drawings, but yeah.
I call it the special filing system. Sometimes you have a great box, and when my box gets full, I have to go into another one. Okay. Or some I don't go special filing system, it goes into the recycle bin.
Recycling, reuse again.
At least we can reuse it again. So it's not an easy thing. You do collect a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So I keep main projects.
Yeah. So tell me about Reggio. What were you saying? What's Reggio? I don't know what that is.
Well, you're going to get me stumped right here. Reggio is more, how can I say, Reggio's through play based. They're very big on pedagogy play based. You learn through your materials that you have. It's another way of explaining.
Why don't you give us an example? Give us an example of one of the provocations that you used that was based on that.
So when I first started, I started to do a lot of research on Reggio, and art was one of the main things I really love, and the natural aspects of Reggio. So they use a lot of natural environments. So in the sense of, instead of having a plastic tree on a provocation, I would have a real tree branch there.
Yeah, right.
That natural concept, which relates back to my culture. So it sort of intertwines for me. That's probably why I'm a bit more passionate. So we created a African mask as the first one I kept, where the children, we explored all different types of African masks and the cultural reasons behind it. And then we created our own. Now, that's my sister centre still has that piece in that centre, and I have been with the centre for over 7 years now.
Yeah,
so I feel very proud that knowledge in that piece is still there with that learning story. So past parents, present parents can see what's happened into the centre while you're there and in the past. So it's always a reflection of your education and what you've educated to the children by having that piece there. So that's how I sort of like implement Reggio. Use a lot of natural resources. So I'd rather go outside and play than be inside. So by doing that, I think outdoor play is very crucial compared to indoor play as well.
Yeah, that's one of the great things that you guys have is that you take the older preschool children out into the natural environment and they just explore and climb trees, and you take them to the river and they get dirty, and the pictures that you guys always post just look amazing.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite times of the year when we start to do that, which is happening very soon after this terrible weather. We hopefully get back out there, but we've just got rain suits, so we're hoping that we can go out in any type of weather.
Yeah, great.
Because that's crucial to a child's immune system by being exposed to the all the types of elements, and I do a lot of my Indigenous teaching also while I'm in Bush Kinder. So it's a very natural environment for me to teach my Indigenous way. I do a lot of storytelling in the sand, on the riverbank. I talk about a lot of animals, why it's important, how we survived, how we adapt to the different environments as well. So a lot happens in Bush Kinder. Then you go into risky play, climbing trees. The learning is endless. Like, you can just continue to learn.
Yeah, and the kid, it's kind of what I find really interesting as well. This is probably going to set us on another tangent, but the risk, I love the risk that you are allowed to you guys are allowed to push that in early childhood, that you can't necessarily do that in kindergarten in a school, because I did say that to I was talking to some schools about, well, this is what they're doing in early childhood. Why can't you guys go and take the kindergartners out and do some bush kinder? But there are such different rules, which is crazy. They're older kids and they're not allowed to be have that risky play.
No, they're not allowed to even pick up rocks and use rocks as money and use them as counters, or even pick up sticks without, oh, no, you're going to hurt someone. Oh, no, you're not going to use it the correct way. I think we have such a bad stigma when it comes to risky play. It's really crucial to children's development. It affects them. If they don't understand how to problem solve at a young age, they won't problem solve when they become teenagers or adults and things like that.
Can you give us an example of some of that problem solving that you've seen during Bush Kinder, or just some, I don't know, creative play that the kids did that surprised you? Or
well, even with Bush Kinder, just basically climbing a tree.
Yeah.
I think we just I can't do it. I don't have the confidence. The children said, I can't do it. Will you be able to help me? I can help you, but I'll guide you. I'll stand beside you to create a safe place for you to feel that you are confident. So if you slip, I'm going to be able to catch you. By having that safety net too allows them to have that confidence and that ability, and create self-esteem as well. And risky play such as, they just think about that unsafety, like, this could happen and that can happen, that possibility. That's the importance of problem solving. The pros and the cons of, this could happen, but if I did this, I can solve it and be effective as a tree climber. Or if I don't do it the first time, I can do it again. And I just keep on trying. I think children give up too quickly these days, and by having climbing that tree, they have that concept of, okay, I didn't make it the first time, but I'm going to give it a go the second time. And they usually make it, get up that tree, and it's such an achievement for them. So their morale is boosted, their self-esteem is boosted, their muscles are boosted, their gross motor, their fine motor. There's so many development that has just been boosted by risky play. Yeah,
that's and I think that must also then translate when they are doing say writing, when it does come time for them to write or to learn more traditional academic concepts, that they have that, I know when I climb the tree, I tried a couple of times and then I did it, so if I keep trying with the writing, then I'll get it. That there must be some relationship there too, I would think.
That's it. So that it links together, like informal and formal learning does have its place, and they do have, there should be a balance. I think if you create a balance, I think children's development will excel a lot better. Children will have more confidence in themselves, and won't give up as easy, because children just give up if they just put it in the too hard basket. And they lose that self-esteem, and self-esteem is so crucial to a child to learn. If they don't have that self-esteem, they won't learn a new skill, or they won't learn or go and play with something that's new to them, or sensory play. I don't want to touch that, that's dirty. Or do you know what I mean? It's okay to be dirty, and we can clean you up afterwards, and just experience that. How can I say, that type of learning, which I think mind you, when I first started, that type of learning was not in childcare. No, not at all. It was very formal. I started off very formal learning, and I've now gone into very non-formal learning. So learning through play and be spontaneous. Seize that moment of love of learning for a child too, for that matter. If you don't do spontaneous play, you lose that moment of that children's interest, because children just lose interest like in 5 seconds, if it's not enhanced.
I really think early childhood educators are leading the way in that space too, and the schools are kind of coming, I think coming behind early childhood education, because you guys, as you say, there has been that shift. It's much more play-based pedagogy. There's actually, I walked past your office one day and I heard you talking to a prospective parent, and you said, I don't do worksheets. You said, but and I also heard you say, we don't have a set transition to school. We are continually transitioning to school. And I think it just highlighted that there shouldn't be a thing where it's like, here is our period of informal play learning. Okay, and now we're down to business, guys. You know, last couple of months before school, now it's the real education. Whereas as you know, I think that's what you were saying was like, no, we're continually preparing our children to be lifelong learners through play-based pedagogy.
Yes, 100%. Look, I know parents, that's what they want. They want worksheets. They want that academics. But for a child's brain development, they've got to learn the basics first. You can't give them a worksheet and expect them to know what to do on that worksheet without developing certain functions of the brain first. You know, it's like when you reboot a computer or put up a computer, you've got to put a code in. Well, you got to start at the beginning, and then and it gets more complex as it goes along. The brain is exactly the same for me. That's how I sort of explain it to my educators. The brain is like a computer. You have to program it, that computer, and you have to program that brain, and give it and feed it as much as you can possibly can. Because the first 5 years is so crucial to a child's development and child's life. That's what they take for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Like the child's brain is like a sponge and it needs to be absorbed.
Yeah. And I was really, and you kind of get that academic outcome anyway, because, you know, my daughter was 4 in November, the end of 2020. And I don't think she was even 4, or she was just 4. She came home with a picture from daycare that she'd written, and then she said, oh, and letter P, and she said, I did the letter P. And I was like, yeah, sure. I did not believe her that she had written that letter P. I just was like, yeah, put it on the pile. And then the next day I actually saw her do that, and I was like, oh my gosh, you can do a letter P. And I hadn't even seen any evidence of that in any of the photos that you guys put up, as in, you know, all the photos you share about what they do daily is just play. But yet she still comes home and is able to start doing, you know, the early foundational writing.
Yeah, because you have to start at the basics. Even learning the shape of a letter. Learning the sound of the letter. And you can do that in so many different ways, like through Play-Doh, sensory play. Like you don't necessarily have to be doing a worksheet to see it, or even having them exposed to literacy as well, by having their name around, by having letters around, by having, on our provocations, we always have words, and we'll say a description, and parents go, but they can't read. I say, yeah, but we can read that to them, and they then understand what that word means, or they start to understand, okay, that word means, okay, we're going to sit here and draw. Even the word, basically, word draw. So, okay, draw. I know how to draw. So they've seen it in word, they put it in context, and they actually put it in to practice. So there's 3 elements straight away of learning through just that pedagogy of play.
Yeah. Can we go back and talk a bit more about how you embed your Indigenous culture into the learning? And so you do that in Bush Kinder. So what do you specifically share, Yuin culture, or
no, I actually share the culture, a bit of both actually. I share the Eora Nation. We talk about the Bedigar people in the Bankstown area, and we, how can I say, I will do research because I don't know that mob. That mob does things different to what we might do. I'm from down the south coast, so their environment is totally different to maybe Bankstown area. So we would pay our respects every day. We'd sing our song, we pay our respects, and then throughout the day, I would say a word in your nation language, or I would use a representation. With my people, I wouldn't go out to a shop and shop. I would have to go into the bush and hunt for my food and gather my food, where some people have to go to a shop and buy their food, and they sort of, oh, okay, why? Well, shops weren't around back then, so that's how we had to do. That's how humans survive. And look, just by even simple things, just having an understanding what the Indigenous culture means can be the best way to embed the culture. You don't have to do any tokenistic stuff like, oh, we're all going to make didgeridoos today.
Yeah.
Well, a woman can't play a didgeridoo for starters, and secondly, we're all making them out of toilet rolls, and that is disgusting and disrespectful. I really cringe when I see it on like social media. It's just like, oh no, there is so many other ways you could do it. Do you know what I mean? You get a person to come out and play the didgeridoo, or give the boys a go at a real didgeridoo. I did that. Your son, I gave him the opportunity to experience and feel and try and make a sound out of a didgeridoo. They were most so enhanced by, oh, I got a sound. Oh, this is what it sounds like. Oh, wow. Where the girls, I would give them tapping sticks, and they would sing, even though they're singing nursery rhymes, but they're still using those tapping sticks. You're incorporating two cultures in one straight away. And that's crucial for me. It's acceptance of both cultures. It's an understanding. It's a way for the future for our Indigenous culture to be believed in the sense and passed down without the politics, without hatred or anything like that. It's just naturally done, and the interest and the curiosity of a different culture than what they believe in. So it's everyone thinks, oh, we should do it. We should be making boomerangs, or, you know, there's so much other part of our culture, you know, like the food and things like that. I did one NAIDOC week, we did fish. So I actually went and brought barramundi fish for the children to scale, clean, and cook in a campfire. So they got, yes, I did that.
I remember that now.
Yeah, last year. So the Bedeca people, they live along the river, so it was part of their culture. So I implemented it that way. So there's also the environment they live on should be embedded. It's not all about their art, just their art. It's also about how they lived, how they survived, how they do their principles of, you know, their environment is so crucial and important to them in so many ways. Like land is very important, but it's not just land, it's their home. So
and I think you point to a really important point there, that often in education, when we attempt to embed Indigenous culture, we fixate on art, I think, and without really taking into account the richness of the, you know, the whole of the culture of the land, you know, the land on which you stand, and things like science and, you know, counting, and the way, you know, you understand the land that you're on. I mean, that's just amazing, because the children are coming, you know, they live on that land, and they can understand, okay, this is how I look after the land that I am on, not some, you know, desert land where they might not live, or they, you know, to understand the river land because we're on the river, and then if children are near the beach, how to understand that land. I mean, that's definitely the way forward, that we kind of, well, what's the culture that we're living on or being educated on?
Well, we have a meeting place in our bush kinder. Now, every child, we sit in a bunch of group of trees, and every child knows where those trees are. I don't even have to say anything. I just go, we meet at our meeting place? Now, that just terminology alone is an Aboriginal terminology. Let's meet at our meeting place, and they all go straight to the bunch of trees. So they're looking at the environment just through their trees, through the grass, through the buildings that are surrounding them. They know not to go near the blue wall where it's out of bounds. So they're just not looking at the rules, they're looking at their environment and linking it together. So we created rocks when we went back. We painted some rocks because we wanted to bring our meeting place back at our centre. So out the front of our centre, we have rocks around our tree, which the children goes, oh, that's our bush kinder, that's our meeting place. So I've linked our bush kinder with our centre and with my culture, all in the one go. And they're so proud of their rocks out the front. They're a bit faded now, unfortunately. I think
new ones.
I think I need new ones with the new lot of kids, but I don't have to change it. Do you know what I mean?
No.
It's still incorporated, and
Yes.
I'm seeing the next generation of children with the same concept, with the same experience, and they're getting the same outcome. So that's really important for me. It's just embedding that outcome to link it to my culture, and by doing that, and the children from generation, which is fantastic. I love it. And I have the autonomy at my centre to do so. So that is a big thing as well.
Yeah, that is incredible. That, as you were talking, I've always meaning to ask, like, I know you guys do yarning circles out the back of the centre around a fire too. How do you go? I'd love to know, what do you do? Do you just share, do the students share stories? Do you share stories? What do you do around
bit
the
of
campfire?
both. So we go around and we ask the children how their day was. So it creates a conversation for starters. What was good, what was bad, so they can express themselves in many emotions. And then I will relate to them through a story. So I had a really bad day because I miss my mum. Oh, I totally understand. My mum used to go out and, go out for days, and I might not see her because she's gone hunting, gathering, doing Indigenous work that I wasn't aware of, or things like that. So I totally understand where you're coming from. So they see it in a different perspective. Look, a yarning circle can be many, many interesting conversations, in the sense of even talk about their parents.
Yeah. Oh no, what do they say?
Even talk about their parents. Oh, my mum did this last night. I went, very interesting. And boys will talk about, my dad did, the biggest fluffy ever, and it smelled so badly. Like the conversation can be humorous, it can be serious, it can be such a contrast of many stories, and it's very interesting. I like yarning circle. I do love it. And when we're not outdoors, we do it inside as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And Lee, you said at the beginning of the podcast you're still learning too. So learning about your own culture has been a journey for you as well, has it?
Yes, it has been a journey, a big journey for me. Learning, I've been doing lots of reading, talking to my aunties, my cousins, my Indigenous grandma. She passed away a couple of years ago. They were very forbidden to talk about any of their culture. So we were only limited to, maybe swear words that we learned in Aboriginal. So we would never know what she was talking about. So we're in our culture where we came from, it was very, you're not allowed to speak the language. So that was really hard. We lost a lot of our language. As I've grown up, I've realised that things that I did were a very cultural way, like Indigenous way. I love being in the bush. I love going bushwalking. My family always went camping. And really rough it. Like we would have to go and fishing. Go and fish for our dinner. Make our own campfire. No matches. We actually had to do it by rubbing or what do you call it? A metal splint. So you have the spark like that, which was part of my culture without even me realizing it. But I'm always learning. It's a constant journey. It's a shame that it's been lost in its way. But I'm hoping to change that. You know, my vision is to go around and educate other educators and show them how to implement it naturally without, let's all do it at NAIDOC week, or we are going to create a song and we're going to sing that every morning. That's fabulous, but it usually stops there. It doesn't continue throughout the day. It needs consistency, and educators need to be educated. Just like I'm learning, they're learning as well. So it is a journey for everyone. We are in the right step forward, which I'm really proud of, that we've overcome so many things and so many obstacles, that we're heading in the right direction, and everybody's so willing to learn. And that's the most fabulous part about it, like the children, parents, educators, which is great.
Yeah, I sense that too, that there's this yearning now, you know, a lot of work, you know, from yourself and other educators out there who are doing it so beautifully. There is that the winds of change, I think. And you know, I just even noticed it in my children, that it's just so natural. You know, there's no, as you say, there's no politics about their interest in Indigenous culture, and they might not even use those words, but they know that there was another culture here before colonisation, and that it has a long history, and that these are some of the ways, and it's just fact. It's just not politicised, as you say, in their interest. And they sing, you know, Paige goes around singing that song. We play on, you know, LeeAnn, you know, she goes around and sings it, and it's beautiful, and she's teaching me how to do the clap, and it's just a natural part of their, it's like another way of learning that they just adapt to so easily.
Yeah, and it's how can I say, it's good to see that, like you said, no politics in it. We need to get over a lot of hatred and a lot of what's another word? How can I say without, you know, I'm trying to think it into be a different perspective. We're moving forward.
Yes.
That's the main thing, and we are moving forward, and us Aboriginal people have had a big chip on our shoulder, and we need to really remove that people are embracing our culture. So let's embrace it ourselves, and let's make the next generation or that hatred disappear, because they won't know what it is, because you've embedded such a beautiful culture, no matter what culture you come from either. We come from a multicultural country, and we're very lucky that we respect each other in so many ways, and that we embrace each other's cultures in so many ways. It's fabulous.
Yeah, and I think, and at the same time, I do think we also, as white educators, need to stop saying, oh, but I was never taught this, or but I don't know what to say, and I'm afraid of saying the wrong thing. And we need to get over that as well and educate ourselves. There's no excuse anymore. You know, you know, there are so many resources out there. There's educators out there we can talk to. We can take the time ourselves to, you know, educate ourselves, just like you have done, you know, so you're doing the work, and I think we need to do the work. You know, white educators need to do the work as well.
Yeah, it's got to go both ways. 100%. But I do see that now, where I say 10 years ago, I didn't see that. There's still a lot of, you know, you wouldn't, if 10 years ago, if I was talking to you about this, I probably would have a different perspective.
Yeah.
I would have had a different outcome, and probably would have taught a lot of differently as well. So we have grown quite a fair bit, which is fabulous. We're in the right forward step, there's always so much work to do, but that's
Yeah.
with anything. When you're learning anything, you have to put the hard yards in. And I think this is the hard yards, and in the end, I think all that hatred will disappear. Well, fingers crossed.
Yes, of course. And you're Lee now. You're doing a master's, is that right? You're continuing.
No, I'm doing my Bachelor of Education.
Oh, that's right. I'm talking you into doing your master's. Is that right?
Yeah. I've got to get through this one first.
Yeah.
Look, it's been interesting, and it's opened my eyes up to a lot. Being an older person too as well. I think I absorb it better compared to if I was younger. I just finished creative arts, and I got a distinction, and I never thought I would get a distinction. Because of my culture, we were taught differently, speak differently, even read differently. We use a lot of slang. We use a lot of slang. So what you read and how we say it might sound totally different. So it's been a big learning curve for myself, education wise, but I've enjoyed it very much so.
And what would you change, and what's missing? Because I'm interested in that perspective, because just from an early childhood point of view, you know, what you're like, coming from very practice-based, so early childhood educators traditionally really learn on the job, you know, and it was a TAFE certificate in Australia that you would, you know, get your early childhood certificate, and it was really like working on the job. And then there has been the big push to have early childhood education, you know, at least have one person in every centre have a degree. And so, you know, you guys have had to then go, okay, well, if I want to stay here, or if I want to be a director, then I need to have, you know, a degree. And I wonder, you know, I don't know, I think sometimes in universities we're a bit behind the 8 ball in, I think we could, change the way we teach. But what have you noticed about that, push to, you know, get you guys more degrees in early childhood educator? And has that been a good thing or
I think it's been a good thing. I think back in many moons ago that we were just babysitters, a babysitting service. We have a big bad stigma. Oh, he's my child. Just let it play. We don't know what we're talking about. We don't know how to educate. That is one of the reasons why I actually went and got my degree as well, because I wanted to be more informal when I spoke to parents. I wanted to make sure that we're not babysitters, we're educators, and we're the most crucial educators that for a child in their first 5 years of their life. And I wanted to know more how I could develop that for myself, to implement that with the children, even to my staff, like to other educators. Actually, I hate calling them staff, other educators. Even though if they only have a traineeship or a certificate 3 or only diploma, they're still educators. They're constantly learning. It doesn't mean, you got a diploma and that's it. No, you're doing personal development. You have educated leaders now in every services, where that gives that educated leader will, you know, educate the other on different perspectives, you know, what pedagogical play is, what risky play is. So they have a further understanding of how to implement. We have come a long way, and I think it's crucial to have an ECT in every centre. I think it's how we can sort of get away from that babysitting service. That, you know, parents look at me and then when I speak, oh, you're very passionate about what you do and you're very knowledgeable. And I was, you know, I was quite surprised at first, but then I realized I have another, my aerial manager is very inspiring to me, and always said to me, we are not a babysitting service.
Yeah.
You're not doing your degree for nothing. You've been educated. Educate those parents, not just the kids. Educate those parents. Let's change that stigma. I don't like even the words center. I like a service, because we do more than just a center. We're a service. We counselors. Where you know you're an educator. You're not educating the children. You're educating the grandma, the uncle, the auntie, the mom, the dad, the carer. Like, you're educating multiple parents. Some of these parents go, oh, look, can you help me? Because children don't come with a handbook. So we're always constantly learning. And I think it's very crucial to for child care that we have that level of education.
100%. And I use your and the other educators' advice constantly with my other child, who was a bit more difficult than my current child, who I can just kind of, my daughter, I can just drop off and go, yeah, she's fine. I don't know. She likes to sing, let her sing. But it was a bit more challenging for one of my sons, and you guys were amazing in your not just your knowledge from your formal education, but from your just from your experience in working with, I knew the moment I walked into that centre that it was right for my child who needed a bit more support. And I definitely had more conversations with you about him than I have about my daughter, because he needed it, and you guys knew what to do.
Yes. And look, every child's different. What might work for one child may not work for another. Yes. And that's what you mean by educating. We're always learning, because what you might use for one child's strategy, you're going to use it and like, well, that was really effective for that child. Why is it not working? Yeah. And educators find that to understand sometimes. And that's where they start to learn that each child is individual. We don't have a set of strategies that will work for every single child. You have to use multiple strategies and multiple approaches that it meets every individual needs. And that's the other thing, we meet every single child's needs. That means development, nurturing. When you go to school, you don't get that. You don't get that one-on-one correspondence. You don't get that nurturing. You're a person of 30 in that class, and I have a curriculum that I need to teach. Whether you learn it this way or whether you're a theory or practical person, it doesn't matter. And this is how I'm going to teach you, and hopefully you'll get it. Where educators in early childhood have to have multiple strategies, have to have multiple outcomes and different ways to help each child individually, where schools just, they don't have the capability to do that. And I think it's crucial.
And it's such a shame. I've got so much to say, but I was just as you were talking about that, I just remembered, I love how you guys ask the kids, even when they're 3, 2 and 3, what special interest they want. And I know last year my daughter, chose being a doctor, and she loved babies, and then she had babies and she had being a doctor, and then you guys combined that, and she just came home learning. And so her play then became a lot more sophisticated as well, and she's carried that. So when she plays with her dolls, she very much it's very sophisticated. Like, she knows how to check the heart and the looks in their mouth and looks in their ears, and it's amazing the level of play when you add that interest in, and then you actually teach them about a bit more about their interest. It's just incredible where they go with that.
Yes, and you don't think, and sometimes you think, oh, they're only going to last for 5 minutes, that interest. But once you engage them, it can last for quite a while. I've had a couple of interests that will last for 6 to 8 months, where people go, oh, no way, no. And I go, yes, because every day I'll do something different to enhance knowledge, give that child knowledge of that interest, whether it's funny, whether it's serious, whether it's through play, whether it's even doing research using, technology and finding out facts. And like your one of your children, we were lucky she got to hear a live version of a baby's heart.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing. One of the educators was pregnant, and then you brought in a Doppler. Oh my gosh, that was incredible.
The expression on her face when she heard that baby sound was unbelievable. That to me was worth that was priceless. And that's priceless education. And her to have an understanding that, there's a human inside that person. That person actually has a heart. It's not just someone who's got a round belly. Oh, there's a baby in there. They actually understand more of the concept of what was inside that person's body. And we looked at ultrasound, so they saw the shape, and it was just the extending of that learning was just unbelievable. Like,
you didn't dumb it down. That's what I loved. It wasn't, she was 3 and you didn't dumb it down. You went next level science with her about it, and then she just like took off, and still still carries all that knowledge with her.
Yes, that's it. And that was not done through a worksheet.
No,
that was not done by even reading. Like how you can't do. You just read. It's you can read a book, but without some theatrical or changing your voice or anything like that, and keep them captivated. That reading won't have any impact. They will remember you being funny. You'll remember you acting out what that word means. Do you know what I mean? It's education can be so much fun if we're not just too formal either.
Yes.
I like that. I find I learnt more when my teachers were funny and put it in humour.
When they're enjoying it, if you're not enjoying teaching it, then there's no way the students are enjoying or the children are enjoying learning about it if you're not having fun with it.
That's right. It combines with the both. You got to love to do it, and you got to love the response that you get from them.
Well, I could talk to you forever, Lee, but I fell in love with you the first day I met you when you told me you loved my son, and that's it. That's all you need to hear as a parent, but you do so much more than that.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
So thank you so much for coming onto my podcast. It's been incredible, and I really appreciate your generosity in sharing your work and your culture and how you embed that, and it's just incredible, and I hope it inspires a lot of educators out there to do the same.
Thank you, and I really appreciate the opportunity as well. I feel very embraced. Excellent. And very inspired. Yes.
Good to hear. Thank you, Lee. Okay, thanks, Lee, and we'll see you all next week for another episode of Teaching Heroes. Bye.